Welcome back to the Out of the Rough podcast. My name is Nate, of course, with Out of the Rough, and typically this is the part of the podcast where I say, joining me as always is my co-host Jake, but Jake ditched me for sunny Florida to play some golf and watch some of the PGA Tour's best at PGA National. So joining me today is John. John, how are we?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Nathan. I don't quite blame your co-host for ditching you out for some golf in Florida. It sounds like a pretty good plan.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where you're from, John, but I'm from Northeast Pennsylvania. He's from the New York City, so we've been bamboozled with snow and ice and rain for the last 3, 4 months. So I'm sure he was ready for a quick getaway to tropical Florida.
Absolutely. We're here in Omaha, Nebraska. We've had a few days in the last couple of months and have been nice to be outside and stuff. We haven't got as much snow as you, but we're definitely chomping at the bit for any golf here coming up.
Yeah, I'm itching. Only so much of my swing stick I can swing in the living room to get myself prepared for some actual golf. Yeah, the other day, Saturday, I believe it was 60 some. I went outside and chipped a few balls around with the kids, but that's about as far as I've got with my golf game so far this winter.
Sometimes having a break is helpful. I mean, us that grow up, kind of in the northern half of the states, are used to it. So, that sometimes you surprise yourself when you come out of the hibernation there.
We can only hope. My game could definitely use a boost. That is for sure. So let's hope this winter break gets my swing right come April, Mayish. But so John, what is your background when it comes to golf betting, anything of that nature?
Yeah, yeah. So I was a golf caddy on the PGA Tour, a little bit on the Corn Ferry Tour for about 20 years. I
Okay.
graduated from college in 2004 and went off on the road chasing my dream and got pretty lucky early on to get linked up with a good young player and went with him out onto the PGA Tour and kind of was able to stay out there the balance of my career. And then kind of when COVID hit, like a lot of people kind of deflected you one way or another. And my wife and I kind of started a family around that time too. And so at that point, I kind of got out of full time caddying, and I've managed to be able to caddy, 1 to 3 times a year for the last 5 years. But I also had an opportunity with the Caddy Network to kind of start doing some more podcasting. I'd done some radio over the years
Awesome.
and did some podcasting, and they kind of asked me to kind of start to dabble in the gambling space. And so I did that for a few years and got a chance to, meet some other people that are in the industry like yourself and um, uh, rattle off some names like Pat Mayo and Rick Rungood and the Tour Junkies. And
Big names
my
there.
boy Keith Stewart is doing some great stuff at Read the Line and Joe Idoni and those guys. So I've like to monitor the odds. I don't really get in the action too much, but I definitely have tried to learn how to kind of, speak the language, and I track it from that perspective as much as not as much as I do the caddying side of things,
Of
but
course.
I certainly enjoy that side. So yeah, that's kind of my basic background.
Yeah, so it sounds like you talked about chasing your dream and going on the caddy thing and making a career out of golf. And I guess you're still doing that in the podcast space and caddying here or there and things of that nature. But uh yeah, in the sense of people kind of glorify that, right? That golf aspect of the caddy aspect. I mean, there's definitely downfalls to it that you talked about it there, the traveling, unable to settle down, things like that. Is there a sense of still missing that in with what you're doing, or is it glad that you were able to live that, but now it's in your past?
Yeah, certainly. I kind of have a tag on my Twitter. It says "once a caddy, always a caddy." So
Okay.
I'm never gonna to give up on it fully, but certainly the further out from it you get, the more you appreciate the good things that you got to experience. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that every weekend when I get a chance to turn on the TV and see my buddies out there coming down the stretch or cashing in wins or nice weeks at tournaments that are really fun to be at that I don't miss it. So it's a little bit of both. Like yourself, to have a young family or have a family, and that's a huge blessing. So that's been fun to be around the house more. And so I'm always angling for just a week here or there, just
Yep.
to kind of feel the adrenaline again. So it's as my buddy Pepsi Steve always told me, he caddies for Ryan Gerard now, and they're on quite a heater. And
Yeah,
he
I'd say
left
so.
caddying for a while. Met his wife and left caddying in the much of the 90s and came back right when I was starting up for the first time. And he always had a saying of just kind of like the tour's not going anywhere, so to speak, that, people kind of come and go. The whole thing kind of continues on. So there are opportunities to dip in, whether you take a break for 5 years, 10 years, or, you get a bop in for a week here or there. So I'm incredibly grateful for the time I had out there and enjoyed being able to speak about it in any way.
Yeah, and I would say that the caddy community or that profession is probably a pretty small pool of people. So, like you said, if you're out for 5 or 10 years, there's still gonna be opportunity down the road to, like you said, hop back in. Just because that pool is, you can't just go on the street and find yourself another professional caddy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the ways of getting into it in many respects have kind of grown a little bit. And you have guys in it that weren't, that were good college golfers and their teammate makes it and all of a sudden they're caddying.
Hmm.
Like, and I have all the respect in the world for that. I think the people like myself that kind of started out, I was on the tail end of just kind of these like lifetime loopers that were just kind of chasing the road and all that. There's not as many of us in that regard anymore because of the money and the connections and people keeping things close to home. But yeah, I mean, once you know some people out there, there's certainly ways to get back in the game, and the experience, is always something that's worth having and that a
Of
player,
course.
could benefit from. So, yeah, I like to keep track of it.
Well, there we go. Well, I guess we should move on here, and I could ask you questions for the next 12 hours if you allow me here. So we better move on with what the people came to listen to here. But yeah, before we do hop forward though, John, where can people find you on social media?
Oh yeah, I'm on X, Twitter at Rat House, RATHOUZ. I've got an Instagram handle as well that I'm not on quite as much. I'd like to get on that a little bit more. And then I've got a podcast that I've played around with in the last couple of years called Quiet Please. And
Okay.
so the last episode I did that was like last fall, and I'm going to try to boot it up here again. So that's so people can find me wherever they get their podcasts. With Herd at Sports is a local digital media company here, and they produce it for me. I like to interview, caddies and other people in the golf industry.
Awesome stuff. Well, you can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter and or X, whatever you want to refer to that as Nate OOTR. You can find all of Out of the Rough on various forms of social media. Just search us on there. You'll find us. Wherever you listen to your podcast, search us up there as you're listening to this one. YouTube are on there as well. So hit a subscribe there if you would. OOTRough.com. That's our website. On there, you can find my weekly PGA, DP World Tour, LPGA, and Live articles. Also, our friend Andrew at All Tour Golf Bets on Twitter covers the Corn Ferry Tour and the Hotel Planet Tour there for us. You can also find my strokes gained putting per grass type on there. Completely free. Just click on the link and you have it all at your fingertips. And of course, the Out of the Rough one and done is there as well. A weekly game where you pick a different golfer each and every week. The prize money uses scoring, and it's completely free. A fun way to dabble into sports or golf as a whole. Maybe you're not into the whole betting aspect of things, but this is a way to kind of dabble your foot. We do PGA Tour and DP World Tour as well. Ask to join our Discord if you're not already. It's completely free. 275 plus people in there. Exclusive content from Jake and myself. My first round leaders. Jake's matchups on there. Up to date tour placement chart for all of the 6 tours we cover here. That's at your fingertips, and just a great community. I like to tout it's the best community in all of golf betting. So ask us for the link to join that. We also have a weekly newsletter where I compile each and every bit of our content, I guess you could call it, that we offer every week Out of the Rough in one convenient location. Hits your inbox every Tuesday morning. And of course, the exclusive PGA Tour placement chart for the respective week, whatever that tournament may be, will be found there as well. Usually Jake's with me, so he does a lot of the introduction. So I hope I did him justice and got all that done for him.
You
Yeah,
crushed it.
hopefully
You guys
so.
got a lot of stuff going on, Nathan.
Yeah, we do a lot. We try to you know, get as much golf as we can. I'm a very big golf nerd from top to bottom, playing to studying to watching every aspect of it. And then I started doing this in 2019 with a buddy, or two buddies actually, on the DFS side, I think, before I got into the outright
Yeah,
betting. And yeah, then I started realizing that it's very statistical based when it comes to golf betting and DFS play. And I'm a very big Excel sheet nerd. So
yeah,
I started creating those things and I have ran with it. I have a
love it, man.
million of those things.
Now's the time.
It is. All right, guys, we have a lot of golf to talk about this week, too. We have, of course, the API, the Arnold Palmer Invitational down there at Bay Hill at Arnie's place. We'll talk about that. We also have an alt field event this week, the Puerto Rico Open, and the DP World Tour finishes off its international swing with the Joburg Open, a final stop in South Africa there. So, of course, the first event we'll talk about this week is the Arnold Palmer Invitational, a signature event. I think we're on to what, number 3 of 8 this season with this mark here. And before they reworked PJ National. PJ National, when it was the Honda Classic, used to be one of the toughest golf courses we would see on the PJ Tour's rotation, a very daunting task. But the last 2 years, we've seen some lower scores there. I know we did see Shane Lowry struggle with the last three holes there and imploded on himself, but either way, we have one of the toughest golf courses in the PGA Tour schedule here with Bay Hill, and why I reference Cognizant Classic in the Bay in PGA Nationals, because that used to be the start of a pretty grueling Florida stretch when it came to difficult golf courses, especially coming from the West Coast and some of the more birdie fest type of events we would see. Cognizant's kind of turned to that, but Bay Hill's going to stay tough. I think last year it plays the fourth toughest golf course on the entire PGA Tour. And we know about Bay Hill, right? This is a Arnold Palmer owned event. It went through various different names before it. In 2007, began playing under the name of club owner and PGA Tour legend Arnold Palmer. The field this week, we know what we're getting at this point. These signature events are kind of the same exact fields week in and week out with a few different Aon swing guys, maybe a few sponsor exemptions. No one, hopping in those spots that you would be like, oh, he's playing this week. Kind of a game changer, what I'm getting at. If you're a top 80 guy on the PGA Tour, you're pretty much on this list, minus a few people. So we'll skip over that aspect of things. Of course, Russell Henley, defending champion, took down Rory McIlroy, or excuse me, Colin Morikawa a season ago. And then we have some other winners of like Kurt Kitayama in 23, Rory McIlroy in 18, and Jason Day in 16 playing this week. So Bay Hill Golf and Lodge was purchased by Arnold Palmer in 1975, has been played under his name since 2007, a 7,400 yard par 72 event. And again, this is one of the more difficult of events we'll see in the PGA Tour. To put in perspective, the difficulty of this course, over the last 8 seasons, only Kevin Chappell has registered 4 rounds in the 60s in the same event at this golf course. We'll see plenty of approach shots from 200 plus. Due to the length of this course, bombers off the tee will get a leg up just because of the pure distance this course offers. Off the tee, accuracy will be important as well. Bay Hill is known for its notoriously thick rough. Missing the fairways will be detrimental and penal this week. Holding those greens coming from this rough will be darn near impossible. And the angles and approaches into these greens, missing the fairway, on top of the difficulty of the rough, will be that much more important. Uh, we have fast and firm Bermuda greens. Approach shots will be taken with a quote unquote bump and run approach, opposed to high arcing shots that tend to bounce off these firm greens. The course features an extensive amount of penalty areas and waters in play on 9 holes this week. Of course, littered with sand traps. It has caused the highest, this event has caused the highest percentage of penalty strokes in 3 of the last 6 seasons. And the weather will almost certainly be a factor. 4 years ago, the weather took a turn for the worse over the weekend, causing the event to turn into a scrambling contest, with nearly becoming impossible to reach any green regulation. So yeah, this is a event that the median score has fallen to about +5 in years past. So I know you've been on these golf courses. You've walked
Yeah.
Bay Hill before. Is there anything about this golf course that maybe I didn't mention that you think that the listeners should be of note?
Yeah, no, I mean, you covered a lot of good things there. It is, I've caddied a handful of times. It is one of the hardest tests on tour. It's not the most pleasing golf course, I would say. It's just an interesting mixture with the as firm as the green gets, as the greens get, and
Hmm.
then having it like fully surrounded with just kind of the rough around the greens. I know they've brought a few more shaved areas into play in recent years, but it almost plays kind of odd, like it's some of thing you get a lot of things that don't quite feel fair there. Florida golf, waters in play, like you mentioned, the wind. It does look. I just took a check at it, like
Yeah.
similar direction all week long.
Hmm.
And for Florida, maybe not crazy, 12 to 15 miles an hour. I mean, you can add 5 to 10 for Florida there. And certainly the mornings versus the afternoons can have some significant difference. Although I was looking at somebody hadn't first round leader the last few years, and actually a surprising amount of them coming out of the afternoon, which I think sometimes when you get down here, some temperature swings can get particularly cold in the mornings,
Hmm.
and the ball doesn't travel as much. And so it looks like this week, though, all things considered, the weather is going to be really solid and predictable. I think these guys are going to get to see it in the practice rounds, and then they're going to see it one day after another. So they'll kind of understand for the most part, how the ball is reacting on different parts of the golf course.
Yeah, I think that's something that not many people as fans or just spectators of the sport will understand is if the weather is bad for 4 days, but it's the same type of weather, a professional golfer who does this day in and day out on top of a professional caddy who does this day in and out can figure out what you need to do to attack this. It's when it starts switching from day to day or shot to shot, it's when it really gets difficult, I assume.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this course doesn't do a good job of kind of subtly taking you on different angles, even within holes, as we see these kind of the dog legs are a big feature out there. But yeah, when you get kind of the same weather day in and day out, then you can kind of learn the golf course a little bit more, and that'll probably favor maybe some of the first timers. You know, certainly this golf course probably hasn't been one where first timers have played really well on in the past,
Yes.
but I could see that's something that could be a little bit more advantageous for that group.
Yeah, definitely a course where, at least in terms of course history and viewing that aspect, there aren't many first time success stories here. It's typically, at least in terms of winning, right? We've seen people with spike finishes where they're
Sure.
third or fourth, but when it comes to overall winning, is typically someone that has played here a bunch or at least before, and usually it's been a pretty big name that's done that. But
Yeah.
let's move on to our betting cards here and talk about a few guys that we like. I guess I'll just kick things off here, John. I'm going to go with my guy that I'm favoring this week, and that's Matt Fitzpatrick coming in at 28-1. I just I don't know. This was my first click this week
Yeah.
on approach play, ball striking. This guy is electric all the way back to the fall of last season. He took down the DP World Tour Championship, was on a heater then. Continuing on, he's fourth on tour in approach. He's 12th in par fives, 18th off the tee in proximity to the hole from 200 plus. So those long irons are dialed. 24th in stroke gain putting Bermuda, so that putter on these Bermuda greens are rolling. 35th in bogey avoidance, 70th in distance, 80th in ball striking. He's checking these boxes. Last played the Genesis 24th there, 14th at Pebble, 9th at the Phoenix, and 60th at the American Express. So his last season, or last few events here, 22nd a season ago, missed the cut in 24, but 14th in 2023, 9th in 2022, 10th in 21, and 9th in 2020. So everything's adding up here. I think it's been a while since we saw Matt Fitzpatrick victory on the PGA Tour. I think it's coming. I think
Yeah.
it's coming. He's playing way too good of golf. Not even just this season. It's clear back to the last fall. So we're talking, what are we at? 6, 7 months? 6, 7 for the kids listening. Uh, yeah, 7 months of just elite golf for Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, that was who I was highlighting too. So,
Awesome.
obviously, Scheffler and McIlroy could go out and win by five each, but that's not fun to talk
No,
about. And so, when you start talking about, well, where can I could potentially make a little bit of money, and I think one thing with you mentioned his record here, Fitzpatrick, and in recent years it hasn't been as strong, but he does have a great history of. I mean, he's had a chance to win this tournament before, and he hasn't. So that's got to be a little bit of extra motivation for
oh,
him
for
coming
sure.
to this week. Certainly knowing how good his game is. So I think he's a really a wise play, and he presents a little bit of value, even being in the kind of the top half. And he's a Bermuda specialist. He's
Hmm.
comfortable down there. So you've got some guys that are really playing well right now that maybe don't have as many reps on that golf course, or maybe we don't know how well their game translates to Bermuda after being on the West Coast for so long. Some of these guys teed it up last week, so that's handy as well. So I mean, maybe just to mention somebody that I'm intrigued by
Yeah.
again here to go off of Fitzpatrick. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on Tommy Fleetwood because he doesn't have as much value there. He's even closer to the top of the board. But I am intrigued by Morikawa
Yes.
this week. He's had a really good track record here before. He got the monkey off his back there in California. My buddy Mark Urbanek, caddies for me, was with Tony Finau, and has done a really good job ever since he got the job. And they finally got over the hump
That's
there
awesome.
at Pebble Beach. And so, you look at what Colin's done here before, and then you see how he's got some confidence now. I don't think anybody would be surprised to see him, post the top five this week and be in the mix on Sunday. Those were the two guys that near the top of the board that I was zeroing in on the most.
Yeah, you kept talking about value there. Like when it comes to golf betting, there's a science behind this. Of course, you can come in here and throw $100 on Scotty Scheffler each and every week, and if it hits, so be it. But that's not how you become a long-term profitable golf bettor. I don't want to pat myself on the back. I've been doing this since 2016. I'm a long-term profitable golf bettor. That's why I'm in this space. But you talk about value there, and that's what it's so hard to understand when it comes to golf betting is you have it's so unique to different betting because if you're betting like the NFL, right, you have a 50-50 chance on the team winning. You know, you do have some skewed odds depending on their ability. But we're talking about guys that the best guy is, Scotty Scheffler right now at 4-1, which if you saw that in an NFL game, you're like, that's an insane number for an NFL game, right? So we're
Hmm.
starting there. And now we're talking about 28 to ones, 20 to ones. We're playing the value, not the golfer, right?
Right.
I would love nothing more than to bet Scotty Scheffler each and every week and move on with my life because it's Scotty Scheffler, right? Or Rory McIlroy, whatever your taste is. But when it comes to golf betting, we got to find the value opposed to the golfer. There's many
Sure.
times a golfer pops my model and I'm like, I want to bet him, but my model tells me don't go below 14-1 or 16-1
Hmm.
and he's 10 to
Hmm.
1. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
you kept bringing up the value there. So I wanted to point
Yeah.
that out.
Well, so to kind of drill down that a little bit more and maybe bring up another name just to see your thoughts, because we didn't spend a lot of time on it earlier, and I know you wanted to maybe touch on it, but I'm really intrigued to hear what you have to say. I have a buddy that this kind of does this for fun, but he's kind of had a single bullet theory all year, and he got hot a couple of weeks. I mean, he took
Okay.
Justin Rose at Torrey Pines. I think a lot of people in the community were on that, but
Mm-hmm.
then he did have Morikawa the next week, and then single bullet, and then he texts me on Saturday night of the Genesis, and he says, there's a lot of value there on Kurt Kitayama. And what did we see Kurt Kitayama go do on
Yes.
Sunday is he had a chance,
Almost
if he
got it.
almost got it. So two names that I kind of think about there. One is Kurt Kitayama, past winner here.
Yep.
So, we've seen guys win more than once at this golf course before. He's seems to have some pretty solid form at the moment. So I would probably entertain kind of what he could do for you. But a name that you talk about value, a guy that coughed up the golf tournament last week, that has played well at the Arnold Palmer before, that as I'm looking right here is 45 to 1. What are your thoughts on Shane Lowry this week? What kind of mental space he could possibly be in, and is he going to be able to flush it and get right back in there?
I'm not sure where he's going to be because this isn't the first time. Obviously, he's had, I think, since his Open victory in 2019, he's had 5 54-hole leads and have lost all of them.
Yeah.
So not only did he, blow the Cognizant Classic in what would go down as historic fashion, that was a complete collapse of okay. But earlier this season, the DP World Tour, I believe it was the Dubai Invitational, he also had to get up and down from a greenside bunker. And Shane Lowry is a phenomenal golfer, a
Yeah.
world class golfer, right? Get up and down from a greenside bunker to possibly win, at least go to a playoff there. And he sculled the ball across the green into the water, double bogeys, places like third. So this isn't
Hmm.
the same calendar year. We go back to the Truist Championship last year, same case, blew a lead there to Sepp Straka, who ended up winning there at the Cricket Club. So it's not just an isolated incident for Shane Lowry. It's three
Yeah.
in the last, what are we talking about, 10 months now? And I don't know if there is a world where I can bring myself to back Shane
Sure.
Lowry at this point. I'd
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see, of course, he couldn't have done this. I'm wearing the USA Ryder Cup jersey
Right.
or polo right now. He could have done this on 18 at Bethpage on Sunday when Russell
Yeah.
Henley missed his putt. I would have liked to see a Shane Mount down there, but of course not. But
Well,
either
I
way,
think, yeah, I think, I mean, he won. He remarked to his caddy. He said that he told him, he goes, "How can I go do that? Up at Bethpage, and then do this right here." It's like right when he
yeah.
finished up, and it's like, well, maybe there's an answer there. It's a team thing. Maybe he's not in his own space. We know how much he's wanted to win that golf tournament last week, and has contended before. Maybe got a bad weather draw a couple years ago, and like
Yep.
almost sometimes, as you know, in golf, when you like want it so bad and you're a little bit shaky. I mean, I think any other golf course last week, he's going to win that
Oh
tournament.
yeah,
But
100%.
the amount of water that's coming down the stretch there, it's the perfect scenario for what happened. And to your point too about this week, like it doesn't get any different here this week. I mean, you're going to have to face those demons head on if you're him. So I fully, I mean, I agree with all your points. I know you're not the only one where I see some people out there being like, he's on my list. He's off the card
As golf
permanently.
bettors, we have a few of those. We have a few of those, and Colin was there for me for a while because
Yeah,
I've bet Colin a lot. I'm a big
yeah,
Colin fan, dating back to the 23 PGA Championship at Oak Hill, where I had a quick chat with him. I've been a fan of him and I've wasted a lot of money on him, so he was kind of sidelined for me for a bit. I'm glad to see it get it done. I'm a big Colin
yeah.
fan, but yeah, Shane. But I don't know because we saw Tommy Fleetwood last year at the Travelers, right? When he lost that event, I thought to myself, if he lost that one,
Mm,
I don't think there's a single chance Tommy Fleetwood wins on the PGA. And what does he do? He goes on and wins
yeah,
PGA Championship. So maybe that's maybe that's a tipping point for Shane as it was for Tommy, right?
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
that incident is like, okay, I did it. So what? Now this is kind of maybe the pressure's off my back now because
Yeah.
I blew up in that fashion.
Yeah, Fleetwood have has a good corner with Harmon in his corner. I'm sure that paid off. I mean, Shane's got the same guys in his ear every week in and week out, so that can't hurt him. But he's certainly going to have to kind of prove it to himself here sometime soon.
For sure. A quick name I want to mention here, just going off trends before we move forward here. I know we're spending a lot of time here, but it's great chatting with you, John. So I'm looking at a trend here, right? So if we look back, Russell Henley, he placed fourth in 2024, wins in 2025. Scotty Scheffler placed fourth in 2023, wins in 2024. Bryson DeChambeau places fourth in 2020, he wins in 2021. Take a look who placed fourth last year. Michael Kim, 200 to 1 if we're talking long shots. That's three incidents in the last five planes of this event where the fourth place winner has won this event. I don't know if you know much about Michael Kim. I know he is the best follow on Twitter when it comes to a PGA Tour professional because, man, there's just sometimes I'm like, I can't figure this course out. And I watch
Yeah,
Michael Kim's walkthrough on
yeah.
Twitter or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if the trend tells us anything, Michael Kim may have a shot to win this golf tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's played so much better in the last couple of years, and he is a great follow, and he's an excellent player. I remember a buddy of mine was caddying for him when he won the John Deere Classic. How
Okay.
many years ago that
Yeah,
was
this has
now?
been a
By a
while.
million strokes, they went off. I also was at that U.S. Open at Marion when he really played well as an amateur, I believe,
Hmm.
and so I looked at him today, and the thing that gave me a little bit concerned was like I just didn't see any of the spikes on any of the
Yes,
stats, and so I'm sure you saw the same thing. The guy that's in that same range that I if we were talking about bombs here, and I had another dozen players, that I was intrigued by for one way or another, whether they're playing well or they've had good finishes here before, or they're way down the board and you don't think they should. But, one guy that I know the public could get behind that might surprise you is Joel
of
Damon.
course.
Has two top tens in a row and he's had a fifth here before. So, Joel's capable of playing with the best of them. I would be a little bit surprised if he won, but I would not be surprised if he had a chance to win on Sunday.
Yeah, Joel again, just a case of just natural talent carrying you so far. And this is just me as an outsider. I don't know Joel at all. This is kind
Yeah.
of my opinion of him. I feel like he's getting serious now that he
Hmm.
really sees what he could have been or what he could be if he were to just put the work in and fully dive into this. I know he's a recent or a father of maybe the last 2, 3 years or
Yeah.
whatever it's
Second
been.
kid. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's that'll change your perspective on anything. Go out and have a kid. I got three of them myself, and it changed my life completely.
Right.
But dude, if Joel Diamond were to win a golf tournament, the golf community as a whole would just burn down out of
Yeah.
pure excitement. He's just one of those guys again that, thinking back to the Phoenix Open when Harry Higgs pulls his shirt up and then Diamond just goes full shirtless.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. He's crowd favorite. So
For
yeah,
sure.
that's some of my bomb. So I'll let you keep it going here.
Yeah, if okay, we talked some bombs. Let me roll back to one of the favorites we didn't get to talk about, and that's Hideki Matsuyama at 30 to 1,
Mm,
who, Jake and I, when we're on this podcast, a lot of, especially in these events, we narrow it down to if it's Sunday and they're tied with Scotty Scheffler with 9 holes to go, who could possibly beat Scotty Scheffler in that sense? And I'm on the belief that, Hideki Matsuyama can do it. When his irons are on, there is no one better in the world than Hideki Matsuyama, in my opinion. And especially if it's around the green or coming out of the sand, I will argue Matsuyama is a top 5 sand player, maybe of all time. He's currently the best
wow.
on tour by a long shot. The if we're talking like what he's doing right now, if we look back to prime Jordan Spieth, I think they're similar. When Spieth had that Spieth magic around the greens where we're like, there's no way this dude saves par from behind this giant oak tree where he has to, like hit up on a hill and roll back down it, and Spieth does it. Matsuyama has that in his bag where I think that coming down the stretch, I really believe he can beat Scotty Scheffler just one-on-one down the stretch, and he's 30 to 1 in this field.
I love that. That's a great barometer. I've never thought about it that way, but that really helps you kind of like
Yeah,
you might miss one every once in a while, but it helps you cross guys off,
it does.
a little bit easier. I mean, taking that barometer and kind of applying to what we've seen this year or maybe in the past, guys that I thought looked good that I would maybe put in that situation, be intrigued by this week. Chris Goddard Jacob Bridgman, and Justin Rose. Now those would be all three guys that would be winning for the second and
Yep,
third
third
time this
time.
year, but they've all done it with Scheffler in the field, and they all shown guys to have some stones in the past. So those are some interesting names to throw into that discussion.
Yeah, Rosie's on my betting card too at 55 to 1, just aging like fine wine. It just when he won, what was it, the 23 Pebble Beach or 22 when he got his
Yeah.
first win in some time. Then, of course, he's gone on to win a bunch since, especially dating back to last season where he's now has two victories in the last 6 months or so. It just seems like, we roll to a golf course here where you're like, distance is a key, right? You need to hit the ball pretty far to compete here, at least if you're not
Yeah.
hitting it long off the tee, you got to have long irons. Justin Rose at what is he, 44, 45 now? He's still
Hmm.
in the top half of average driving distance on the PGA Tour. So it's
Hmm.
not, you think of an older guy, oh, he's probably short off the tee. That's not the case for Justin Rose. And we saw it at the American Express with Scotty Scheffler on the field, and he lapped the field and won by a
Hmm.
touchdown.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's playing when he wants to, and I talked to his caddy at Fooch at Torrey Pines. It was the only tournament I've been able to go to this year. I was there for like 3 days on a Wednesday. I was happened to be in Southern
That's
California for
awesome.
work,
Yeah.
and I was just saying, man, I love how good your guy's attitude is. Like he's so businesslike, and ended up going off and just having an unbelievable week. And maybe he hasn't had the best finishes since then, but he just
He
moves
hasn't.
on every week, and yeah, it's there.
Well, he's been there, done that. He's seen it all. It's not nothing's fresh in his mind, right? He's
Yeah,
like you said, it's a business transaction. He's going
yeah,
to put last week behind him and move on to this week, and
yeah.
he could he could very well come to this golf course in this event and win by 10 strokes again, as he did
Hmm.
a few months ago.
And I think it's intriguing when it's guys that haven't. I don't know if there's any data behind it, but when you see a guy that's had good finishes at a place before but hasn't won there before, like I sometimes feel like you could say, "Oh, that means he's not ever going to get it done there. It doesn't quite fit him." But you could also say, like, "Oh, he's going to have a
There's a
little bit
reason.
more motivation to get it done when he gets that opportunity."
Especially here at a course like Bay Hill, where it's been a staple of the PGA Tour since 1970 something, and
Yeah,
it's been around for a long time and kind of one of those check mark lists, I'm assuming, for most professionals.
yeah. Get yourself a cardigan,
There we go. Yeah, who doesn't want a rocket
right?
cardigan like Arnie?
Yeah.
All right, John. Anyone else? Anything else here to add before we move on?
No, there's a lot of other names there. I think on the bomb side that I thought, he had a 14th here last year and he's playing well. Ryan Fox is going off at 120 to 1. I thought that
He's on
was
my card.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Fox, he's another guy that I believe can come into any golf tournament and just be in the leaderboard. You're like, oh, Ryan Fox is there. It's not like it's gonna be a surprise to you as,
Hmm.
say, some random name pops up there. Ryan
Yeah.
Fox is a baller, and I've
Hmm.
been a fan of him since the DP World Tour days when he 23, I think, when he played there. But just a guy, I love that Australian slash New Zealand style of golf where they crush the ball and then are miraculous putters. Like it's just a weird combination. Like we don't see that here in
Yeah.
the States. You either have like this,
Yeah.
tall, when you build your scramble for your 4-man charity scramble, you have the
Yeah.
tall, lengthy guy who crushes the ball a million miles, and you have the guy
Yeah.
who, can chip really well. It's never the same. The guy that's teeing off is never the same guy that you're putting last to putt for you. Is what I'm getting at. But that's just
For
kind of how
sure.
they make them down in that sand belt
Yeah.
down there in Australia, New Zealand area.
Yeah. He played well in the Aussie Open. Well, I don't know if he did this year in the Aussie Open, but he did get his win, on Bermuda grass on the PGA Tour last fall, just of note. He's obviously likes the Bermuda.
Yeah, he won twice last year,
Did
Canada, and
South
then went
Carolina.
down and was it South Carolina?
South Carolina, I feel like he won. And then was the other one Canada?
Yeah, he won the Canadian Open, I believe, and then I think the other was the Altfield event. Yeah, was it the
The
one
alt
flight
one.
Myrtle
Yeah.
Beach? Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Myrtle
Yeah.
Beach. There you
Yeah.
go. So
There we go.
similar
Yeah. So,
graphs.
yeah, I mean, again, I just love to watch
You
the
like some Ryan Fox.
play.
I
Love
like it.
Ryan Fox. I'm always down for some Ryan Fox. All right. Well, let's get a move on here. We're gonna talk our ears off here. Puerto Rico Open. We have this Altfield event down here, held annually at the Grand Reserve Country Club in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico, and talk about Jake escaping down to sunny Florida. Imagine escaping down to sunny Puerto Rico right now. Holy moly! So yeah, this is an event that annually gives a chance for the unsung heroes, the grinders of the tour, the up and comers maybe to get a win on the PGA Tour. 11 of the 17 winners here at this event have been first time winners in the PGA Tour. We've seen Tony Finau, Victor Hovland get their maiden victories here along the way. Last year We saw Carl Phillips get it done talking about some Australian golfing down there. We have a slew of Denmark golfers. The Danish golf scene has really burst
Mm.
off the last few years, and I'm a fan
Oh
of it,
yeah.
man. The way those guys, it's a similar. I mean, I'll get behind Nikolai Rasmus, Neergaard Peterson, all of those guys, Thorbarn, Olassen, all those guys. I love Danish golf, but that's basically what's headlining this field. We have Rasmus, Nikolai. Well, Nikolai's he was in this field, but he's playing the Arnold Palmer. You have Neergaard Peterson. I think was runner up here a season ago. Who else? We have Hotong Lee, Dan Brown, John Perry, Adrian Sadair. A bunch of, if we're looking at this, the DP World Tour promotees the last two seasons are kind of here.
Yeah.
So we also have Bryce Garnett, who won here in 24, Ryan Brehm in 22.
Hmm.
This is a golf course that sits at the foothills of the El Yunque Rainforest. 7,500 yards at a par 72. Talk about distance here. There's water in play in 13 holes. This is a pass Palm golf course with some average size greens. Going low would be imperative. This is a birdie fest, right? This is what these alt fields typically are. They're easier golf courses. Kind of a bomb and gouge technique is what you're going to need here. Seven of the last eight winners have shot 19 under or better to win. Carl Phillips minus 26 a season ago. So you got to go low. Got to go low. That's the key here.
Hmm.
Unless, of course, those coastal winds and the weather really get in the way here. I don't see that on the forecast. Weather being a factor this week. It looks like we're going to see some 40% chances, maybe 50% some rain showers, some 83-degree weathers, and some winds that can reach 17 miles per hour. But you know what you're getting down here in Puerto Rico. But John, again, anything to add here about this golf course, field, anything of that nature?
Love this golf course.
Oh, I'm
It's a
sure. I'm
cool,
sure
fun
it's a
one.
beautiful place.
Yeah, and then at rainforest, there's some stat with it. It's like the most rain per capita of any place
Huh.
in the United States of America or in the Caribbean or the world. Like that rainforest, like it, you look up there, there's a cloud over it all day long, but it doesn't oftentimes
So
make its way
weird.
onto the golf course. Yeah, you do get tested through the bag here a little bit. I feel like there's some holes that, when you're into the wind, you're having to hit like, 5 irons and stuff, and there's a long par three on the front nine where you're busting a 3 iron down there and
Hmm.
stuff. So it's not like complete like bomb and a wedge everywhere. You really have to play through the bag. But with the pass palm greens and everything just kind of being soft and just stop, like you really can score out there. I do think it's a course too where guys that have played it before have a little bit of a distinct advantage. And I've noticed that like through the Caribbean golfing scene in general. I mean, you look at guys that like really play well in the Caribbean area. You mentioned Bryce Garnett.
Hmm.
You what happens is you tend to get the same wins year in and year out, little variations of them, and you can just like I was talking about earlier,
Okay.
you can really learn the golf course and kind of the shot value, or kind of like, all right, here, it's a 3/4 knockdown, or that pin I can go back at there in this wind because it's just going to sit on it. Like
Yep.
you just kind of pick up these little nuggets along the way. I always liked caddying at El Cameleon there in
Yep.
Mayakoba. Like I felt like I really learned that golf course over the years, and we'd have little subtle differences of an east wind. It would be east southeast, east northeast, but you'd learn it. So, I give a little bit of I think first time guys do well here because they're just good young players. But
That's
I
it.
also think the guys that have one or two underneath their belt here can do well. I think I've zeroed in on a guy this week that has a little bit of both. So I'm kind of was excited to
Okay.
see where he is on the odds board.
All right. Well, lead us right into the odds here. And I'm going to kick things off here, John, with a guy that's played this golf course at least twice before, I believe. I'm trying to look here. Bad podcasting. Either way, I'm going Chad Ramey at 40 to 1. Really like what he's coming to here. Played here twice. Yes, 26th a season ago and 5th in 2022. So some success. He's fresh off a 17th last week at the Cognizant, 48th in Phoenix, 22nd at Farmers, 63rd at American Express, 71st in Hawaii. So he hasn't missed a cut yet this season. So that's something for someone like Chad Ramey, kind of a veteran guy who's been around for a little bit throughout the scene here and keeping pace with everyone. 19th on tour in putting. He's 33rd in scrambling, 41st in bogey, 63rd in distance, and 96 in birdie or better. The approach numbers maybe 111th, slightly below average there, but this is a guy who's seen this golf course, has success here, and when it comes down to it, I've talked about this before a lot with Jake, and when you're coming down the chase here, you have a guy like a Chad Ramey or a guy who is just on the tour, trying to get his first sense of being in contention on a Sunday down the stretch. Who am I going to trust? I'm going to trust the veteran who has been there, done that. Maybe he hasn't got that victory, but he's felt that emotion and that stress before and get it done. But I thought that was great value, especially in this field for someone like Chad Ramey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he's won on that kind of. He's a Southerner and a PGA Tour winner. Before I go too far, my buddy here, Scott, I got to give him a shout out because you say you're a huge fan of Danish golf. This
Yep.
guy is a huge fan of Danish golf too, and he even follows it down there on that DP World Tour. So
Yep.
shout out to Scott because he's leading that Danish fan
That's
club
where I
with
learn
you.
all these guys. I'm a big fan of the DPA World Tour and having Andrew at All Tour Golf Bets, shameless plug there, on our team. He does the Hotel Planner Tour, so we're even
Oh
deeper
wow,
into things here.
yeah,
And
you are.
a quick story about Danish golf. My best friend, he went out to the W Phoenix Open for a trip for his wife got him, and he's a big Nikolai Hojgaard fan, right? And he was on Sunday cheering for Nikolai, right? But you had Chris Gotterup, you had Hideki Matsuyama as like the big stars in contention, and he was really the only person cheering for Nikolai. So when Nikolai walked off the 18th green, he kind of sought him out and went over to my friend, was like, "Hey, thanks for the support today," because pretty
Yeah,
much he's the only guy in the gallery cheering for him all day. So I thought that was
yeah.
pretty neat.
Yeah, I stayed up this winter and watched that Australian Open, and that Neargard
Oh
Peterson
my
guy
gosh,
is a baller.
love
He's
him,
gonna he
love
bombs it
him.
apparently, and he's just got the cut of his jib. Like he is not gonna be afraid of much once he gets his legs under him. I mean, it's pretty crazy to see him. He's the second favorite here this week at 18-1. Never played here. So the one guy that I zeroed in, and if I had to go single bullet this week, Adrian Dumont de Chassart is my
Yep.
pick to win here, and he's a guy that's I think last time out here he finished 35th, and but he does have a top five as well.
Hmm.
He came up on the PGA Tour a couple years ago, very highly touted, and off the Corn Ferry Tour had an amazing run on the Corn Ferry Tour. Then he laid an egg his first go around on the PGA Tour, and then he had to go back down to the Corn Ferry Tour and got his card back, and has actually kind of held some good form here so far this year. I think he made a caddy change along the way. And I think I remember this guy. I was like, this guy is going to be really good. I was shocked when he did so poorly his first time around on the PGA Tour. Some not counting some maybe sponsors exemptions along the way.
Hmm.
But I saw what he's done here before, and he just seems like a perfect little like young gun that's got some rounds under his belt here that's hungry. So that's my guy there at 40-1, Adrian Dumont Dechessart.
Yeah, and I think it also shows something, like you said, where he made his way to the PGA Tour, went through the whole grind fest to get in the PGA Tour, lost it, and then did it again. I think that shows something that he was able to then regroup and not only spend like 2, 3 seasons back in the Corn Ferry Tour before he made himself back up there. He spent one more season, got back. So I think that shows a lot of maybe
Mm-hmm.
maturity or grit that this guy has to be able to do that. Because I mean, that Corn Ferry Tour grind is that's got to be
Mm-hmm.
exhausting. That's got to be
Yeah, oh
exhausting.
for sure. It is. It's better if you're young in the young man's game. You see some of these guys out, the guys that had it so good on the PGA Tour for years that are, giving it a go out there, and I just know it's killing them to be out there. But you got to do what you got to do.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
the other
And
one that's right below him was Matty Schmid. I thought had some form
oh,
here and some form for the year. So those were kind of he was like 1B or 2A for me.
yeah, Matty Schmidt showed up last week as well, I believe. Had a good
Hmm.
showing there in Florida. One of the young guys I want to talk about here is David Ford at 50-1, 51-1. If your DraftKings is doing this not rounded up or rounded down type of thing. But either way, so I don't know, I have a question here about the PGA Tour University, right? So we've had two other promotees. We had Ludwig Oberg and then we had Michael Thorbjornsen. Those are our
Hmm.
two so far that we've seen
Studs.
made their way, right? And they came out of the gate just basically touted as superstars. They were opening at 25 to 30-1 in their first PGA Tour events. Then we have David Ford, who is
Hmm.
the most recent promotee from the PGA Tour U, who the same process of those two latter names made his way through. And,
Right.
you talk about David Ford and people are like, who? I'm like, you were the same guys who were touting Ludwig Oberg and Michael Thorbjornsen, and you don't know who
Right.
David Ford is. I just don't know why David Ford isn't getting the attention that those two previous mentioned names are getting.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like I think the main reason is he's missed so many cuts,
Yeah,
in the starts that he's had. He's a nice young lefty, obviously won a lot in college, and his ball striking stats look a lot better
elite.
to start the season. It looked like he had kind of fallen off in some other places, like enough where that's why he's not in the mix
Hmm.
more at this point. He had some adventurous rounds there last week early on, and he's like holing out 3 holes in a row, and
Oh yeah, that was insane. That what was
up
it,
in the
Thursday
mud
or
like some
Friday?
of these
Holy
guys.
moly!
Yeah, so that's a good sign for him that he's making cuts, and I'm sure in some respects that's motivating for a guy like that to see his buddies playing well. But I'm sure he's also thinking like I used to beat up on these
Yep,
guys. Why am I not? So that can make you press things a little quicker. So he's got an opportunity this year to settle in and play well, and sure. With that sort of winning pedigree, I wouldn't dismiss him from winning this week at all. It'll be really fun to see, what I mean. I'm assuming Jackson Coven's going to go pro this summer. Who knows? But
yep,
he's going to. I feel like he's really going to match up with the other two guys that you mentioned
of
before.
course. Yeah, that guy
And
is
maybe the
a
odds aren't that everybody cashes out every year from PGA Tour U, but it's been a good program so far.
yeah. That's already a name that people are talking about for potential next Ryder Cup Team USA
Sure.
is him. But yeah, I'm intrigued by David Ford. I know the short game is really the answer there, right? He doesn't have the complete game. I mean, out of college, elite ball striker, and I guess as someone who's been inside the ropes, how do you deal with a golfer who is because I don't, I'm not a good golfer, right? I golf, but there's someone that is so world class in ball striking, like Scotty Scheffler back in 2023. How are you the world's best tee to green, but you can't figure it around the greens or on the green? Like, as someone who's been inside the ropes, how do you guide a golfer to improve in that aspect? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the two different things, whether it's chipping or the putting, but it is frustrating no matter what. I mean, it's easier as a caddy if you got the guy that can putt and chip and he doesn't hit it very well because you maybe get hot with the irons or you can guide him like a little bit more and that mentally he knows that that's how he plays
Yep.
anyway, so he's gonna be in the game anyways. It's that other guy that you're talking about that can get really down on himself quite easily. It can get super frustrating. I think if it's a chipping thing, it's like as a caddy, you're throwing your guy on the chipping green anytime you can get out on the course. You're just going to tell him like, hey man, this is what you need to do to excel out here, and you need to like lean into it. And maybe if you've got a coach or somebody that has kind of a more of a technique approach where they can
Hmm.
make some tweaks, and that's positive for him. But as this caddy, you're just going to work on the short game, whether it's I got to gamble with this guy a little bit to get it up and down. And I think him and his caddy were doing that. It looked like
Yep.
there's a payout, from his caddy if he's chipping in and stuff. But at the same time, I think he has to make the cut
To
to
get
have
that.
that realized and stuff. So that's great that they're doing that. I think the putting is really similar. I think, yeah, the putting's a
Yeah,
little bit more complex in some
and that's
ways.
much more of a mental aspect when it comes to putting. I mean, even myself, I've, driven a green right, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna putt this for eagle. It's like 6 foot, and I end up three putting for par or bogey, whatever. We've all been there, and that's just a mental
Yeah,
aspect of, oh, it's right there, 6 feet away. Here it is, pounded in, and just gonna miss it. So,
yeah.
I try not to relate myself to professional golfers, but when it comes to putting, man, we all get frustrated. Then you miss one short putt in your first 2 holes, you're like, well, I can't putt.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been what Scheffler's his improvement in that
That's what I'm saying.
area
He is,
has just been
yeah, made himself
while
a,
why we're at where we are with
yeah.
him right now.
Yeah, because Scheffler back in 23 was, gaining 10 strokes tee to green, but then losing 4 strokes on the greens, and
Hmm.
that's why we were, able to avoid him for a lot of the
Yep,
year. Now he is a top half. He's one of the better putters on tour now, and that's why
yep,
we're dealing with what we're dealing with. Two
crazy.
more names I want to talk about here. I'm gonna go up north of us and talk about two Canadians I really like this week: EJ Ewart and Sudasharn Yelamarasha. I don't know if I said that correct. Probably not. But those are two Canadians I really love. Smaller odds here: 80 on Ewert and Sebastian, 86 Sudarshan. Excuse me. Uh, but Ewert is a name that I've seen only because when I do my model, I sort alphabetically to put the data in, so I see his name there often. But he has quietly been rather good in the PGA Tour. Not a bad resume so far. 38th green in regulations and bogey avoidance, 61st in putting, 65th distance, 69th scrambling, 78th off the tee. He was 13th last week at the Cognizant, 28th in Phoenix, 49th at the Farmers, 44th at American Express. Then we're looking at Shadarshan, who's kind of the guy that I think more people are known of because he won on the Corn Ferry Tour a season ago. 11th on green and distance. So you know, what does everyone want to do when they golf? They want to crush the ball as far as possible, like at your local golf club. Like that's what draws people in, that draws the eyes, right? So I think Shadarshan has the viewership because of that. But either way, 30th, 38th, birdie or better, 42nd off the tee. He was 17th last week at the Cognizant, 54th in Phoenix, 56th in Farmers, missed the cut at American Express. We're talking about two guys, Canadians, that fit this golf course rather well, both recent Corn Ferry Tour promotees, and just in that 80 to 1 range that I really like.
Yeah, that Canadian golfing brotherhood is strong.
It
They're seeing
is.
their buddies win right now.
Yeah, if we look back, what was it now? 2023 when Nick Taylor won and Adam Hadwin was tackled by security guards on the greens at the Canadian Open.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
one of the, I would love to relive that moment as a viewer again, just the pure joy of Nick Taylor and the
yeah.
Canadian sports lore I mean, the guy's the logo of the tournament now, but either
Yeah,
way,
and
that
Adam
is,
Hadwin's in the field this week down
he
in Puerto
is,
Rico. He's a guy that lost his card and
he
he's kind
is.
of playing both tours and he had a nice start on the Corn Ferry Tour to the year down there in Panama. So you wouldn't be surprised to see him throw his name in the hat there on the weekend.
I've always found it interesting how we see there's, I don't know if it's just Nick Taylor on the mind, but a correlation between like Canadians and some like Hawaiian or Caribbean golf. You wouldn't think that these guys from up north who are freezing half the year can come down and, we see Nick Taylor just plastered in sunscreen winning golf tournaments. But I don't know, there's something about Canadians coming down here and getting it done.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, John, we got one more tournament to talk about here. We're going to go DP World Tour for the Joburg Open. I loaded the wrong article here, excuse me. But the Joburg Open, the final stop of the international swing for the DP World Tour. We've been in South Africa now for, I believe this is the second or third, no, second straight week. We had the South African Open last week, which is South African one, which no surprise. But the Joburg Open here, and of course nothing is going to load for me as we're doing this. Here it is. Yes, excuse me. Poor podcasting on my end. If you're a fan of this podcast, if you listened to this before, you've heard Jake and I ramble while we're trying to load articles quite often as we do. It's kind of our thing, right? But yeah, so this is another co-sanctioned event between the Sunshine Tour, which of course is like the South African kind of African golf tour. Last event of the international swing, we talked about that. This is another strong South African presence, as you would know. If you're talking about South Africans outside of like the Live guys, the PJ Tour guys, they're here. Uh, who was Callum Hill defending champion, so a
Hmm.
Scotsman defending champion here with Joe Quez, Corey Witch, and Sean Norris. South Africans were runner-ups a season ago. Dan Bradbury won here in 22, an Englishman at the Houghton Golf Club where we are this week, a par 72 at 7,241 yards, a track that has rich history in South African golf lore, hosted the South African Open 8 times, as well as the South African PGA Championship at the end of last century, a traditional tree-lined parkland course with fairly generous fairways. The fairways are generous, but they are undulating. The course as a whole has lots of water hazards and bunkers in play. Greens this week are a bent grass and are undulating. So the course is listed at 72.41 on the scorecard, but don't forget to note that it is 5,000 feet above sea level. So therefore, the ball travels approximately 10% further. So the long hitters off the tee will get maybe it'll knock down a little bit. So yeah, you have two types of golf courses in South Africa. You have the ones that
Mm.
are coastline, or you have the ones that are way up in elevation. But yeah, John, anything to add here?
Not a lot. I would love to go to South Africa at some
Oh,
point in my
same,
life, and
same.
I would love to caddy on the DP World Tour at some point as well. I got to do an Irish Open
Yeah,
in the
well,
past, but
here
this
here
will
we
be
go.
fun.
Here's his open resume to anyone listening on the DP World Tour. If you need a caddy,
Right?
John is your
Yep.
guy. Hit us up. We'll get you in
Yeah.
touch. We'll get you linked up. And only stipulation is I have to come with. We're a
Well,
package deal now.
you're in, and I talked to my buddy Scott too, who was also in for the Danish golf, and I said, "Hey, man, we can make this happen." We were talking about doing like the 2 week swing in South Africa sometime next year, the year after. So we'll just throw you in the mix too, and I'll make a
Yeah,
few phone calls,
it's
and
part
we'll
of
all
it.
go out there and loop for the week, and maybe cash some tickets that way.
Yeah, there's another young Dane on the DP World Tour, Jacob Skovalassen, who I've kind of grown a liking to.
That's what my buddy. He was on him last week, so
Really,
so
yeah,
you
he's
guys
awesome. I
will
love
get
him too.
along.
I've
Yeah.
I've bet a lot of times on him as well. I don't have any Danish or Danes on my card this week here, John, though. I do have some Frenchmen, Julien Guerre being the first one, 40 to 1, just a constant present on the DP World Tour, a consistent and an all-around golfer, 16th in bogey avoidance, 22nd in scrambling, 29th approach, 35th in distance. Just a guy who's been around for a while. I think he won last year off the top of my head without looking. Last week, he was 29th in South Africa, 36th in Qatar, 24th in Bahrain, 3rd in Dubai, third in Dubai twice at the Desert Classic and the Invitational. Missed the cut at the Alfred Dunhill, sixth at Nedbank Golf Challenge. Played this event in 2023 last, T48 there. Uh, I just always gravitate towards joining Gear. I'm such a stats based better, and he's so well rounded in the DP World Tour that any type of event that I run, he pops up because he's so well rounded. And he's been in contention twice this week or the year already in Dubai. And let's not forget that those are loaded fields with a lot of the European based PGA Tour stars there. The Rorys, the Shane Lowrys, the Tommy Fleetwoods were all in that field, and he placed third in those events.
Interesting. Yeah, I this tour you hear sometimes people talk about how like the Corn Ferry Tour is maybe a better tour than the DP World Tour, like
Mm-hmm.
from top to bottom. And as I dive into the DP more and more, like I think at the top, there's no question that
Oh,
that the
100%.
DP World Tour is probably the better tour, especially when you have weeks when there's some guys out there that are top 50 in the world, certainly up and comers on the Corn Ferry side. But I do think if you're a quality player on the DP World Tour, you can absolutely clean up because I just don't think depth
100%.
the depth is there. Because I was looking at names today without even seeing the odds boards, and I popped open the odds boards now, and all the guys I like are
Yep.
the top 4 or 5 in the odds board.
Yep.
So I don't know how much money you're going to make there that week. I mean, as that Shaper guy is like up in the world rankings really much now, and then
Two
Reed
wins this
obviously is
season.
doing his thing. That Arroyo guy or Ayora, and then Duplessis I've heard of before, and he's South African. And then my buddy threw in Laporta there, and he's playing well right now. I'll my ticket of the week though, that we'll see if anybody does it, and maybe see if you're intrigued by this.
Okay.
What about a 2 win or an each way parlay of Alex Fitzpatrick and Matthew Fitzpatrick this week?
How electric would that be? Yeah, imagine being Alex getting off the phone like I gotta call my brother and let him know I just won this golf tournament. I'm sure Matt would know, but just to try to chat
Yeah,
with him, and Matt's like, "Hold on, I'm trying to win this one
yeah,
myself." Like, how
yeah, exactly.
awesome would that be?
Yeah, he's
I love,
35 to 1, so
I
I
love
don't.
the
I think
story, or
where the things crazier things could happen.
yeah, I love like the New Orleans event where we're allowed to see brothers playing together. Rasmus Nikolai
Yeah,
have done it. The
yeah.
Fitzpatricks have done it. We've seen it with many of golfers in doing so. Uh, but yeah, I love that. I love that. So heck, let's just run it because I think what he's 35, Matt's 28, so you're gonna get a good number on that when you parlay it together and each way it to get a little safety net.
Wow, look at him. He's going to crunch the numbers real quick.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it in my head. I'm not a math guy. I have a
You need your
I'm a
you need
journalist,
your
so
spreadsheet.
yeah, I need. That's why I have the spreadsheets. They do the math for you in there if you put the number or the equations in. Some South Africans I like in the middle part of this field. We have Brandon Stone and Daniel Van Tonder. So Van Tonder's a guy I've been on quite a bit. Last week had a chance to get it done at his home open, didn't get it done, but 50 to 1 for Van Tonder, a guy who plays his best golf in South Africa. Some good course history here too, which you don't see a lot of. This event's kind of one that's kind of skipped by most, unless you're South African, because it's after the South African Open. But yeah, fifth a season ago, missed the cut in 24 and third in 2023. He was sixth last week in South Africa. Earlier this season, we looked back there, 14th at Alfred Dunhill in South Africa, 10th at the Nedbank Golf Challenge in South Africa. Just a guy who plays great South African golf. Last year, he won twice on the Hotel Planet Tour in South Africa. Comes back, he won another time. He won 3 times the Hotel Planet Tour a season ago, but he was 100 to 1 last week, 50 to 1 this week in a weaker field. Just a lot of value on the bone there for, again, a guy who plays South African golf maybe better than anyone.
Love it. Yeah, it's a different kind of grass down there.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And you see this success there. My long shot this week, if you've listened to this podcast before, you know it's coming. It's Hohan. Here we go. Gulo Mondegai. I've yet to learn how to say his name correctly. 125 to 1, the young Frenchman there who won. I think he won the Irish Challenge last year on the Hotel Planner Tour. Just a really long and funny name, but man, 22nd on tour in green regulation. He's 31st out of the sand, 43rd off the tee, 54th in bogey, 59th in distance. Last played in Kenya, where he plays 14th, 48th in Qatar, missed the cut in Bahrain, ninth in Mauritius. I say that wrong all the time, but because of good results there, we're talking 125 to 1 in this field. Can't really go wrong. And when it comes to these type of bets, when I talk with Jake all the time, it's when you're talking about a guy 100 to 1, I can't rebuttal anything you say because the odds are that length for a reason. So I'm not like,
Hmm.
oh, that's a bad bet. 100 to 1 and plus, do what you want.
Right, right, right. Yeah, well, it almost paid off for people last week with Smotherman.
Oh, that would have definitely been longer than 100 to 1. That was a
Yeah.
I don't know where he opened, but that was a great showing. That was fantastic. I know his first round leader was like 100 to 120 to 1.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if your
good
first round
player.
leader's like that, I'm sure you're 200, 250 plus.
True.
Well, I guess that's it. If we have anything to add about the Joburg Open here, John.
No, man, I don't want to throw anybody off the scent.
Well, there we go, man. I appreciate hopping on. It's been a blast talking to you and just a different feel for things. Sometimes Jake and I get in the routine of hopping on here and just back and forth with, Jake's a lot like me with the stats based and things, but getting someone who's been, quote unquote inside the ropes, you've been there, you've been on these courses. It's a really cool aspect to dive into.
Yeah, it was really fun to chop it up with you, and look forward to listening to you guys more in the future. And tell him thanks for letting me slide in there here for the week. It was really fun. All the best.
Well, John, I hope this isn't the last time we have you on the podcast. It's been a joy. But yeah, one more time, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, at Rat House on Twitter and on Instagram, and then you can check out the Quiet Please podcast. Hopefully, I get it up and running here sometime soon. But yeah, it was really fun getting on there with you, and reach out to me anytime for sure.
Awesome. You can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at NateOOTR. Be sure to check out OOT Rough for all of our offerings on there from the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, LPGA, Live Golf, Corn Ferry, Hotel Planner Tour, you name it. We probably have you covered on there. And if we don't, get a hold of us. Maybe we will in the future. But yeah, that's it, guys. We'll see you all next week.